Episode 47 of two FMA-Nerds Talking About Stuff. I brought on my homie Chris Chiu way down there in Florida. He is my wonderful Florida man, FMA-er, who we just get into some cluckery. So it was Friday. We were like, oh, fuck it, let's just do stuff. And we did. And apparently there was some controversy. We got some great communication. It's an episode just worthy of just watching and kicking back a cold one, utilizing a beverage of your choice, having a snack of your choice. It's 2 hours of us just kind of bullshitting. We didn't really dive into anything like deep and emotional. We just kind of like bullshitted for 2 hours. So, I don't know. If you're into that kind of thing, watch it. If not, whatever. It's had a bit of resistance elsewhere, but yeah, it is what it is. Enjoy.
What's been going on, man?
Oh, not much, brother. Just been working, training, and more training as much as I can these days.
So you got a new job, correct?
I did.
Are you able to go into detail as to what said new job is?
I feel like I have to now. If I say no, I can't. It sounds like I'm doing something, more incredible and grandiose than it really is when it's not.
Clandestine.
Yeah, no, I just time for a change. Changing career paths, seeing what's open. Don't know for how long, but we'll see where things go. And then, nothing too incredible. So,
Oh, sweet. Well, I mean, seasons of growth, seasons of change, so new opportunities and everything. So hopefully it's going to pan out for you.
hopefully,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, with that new opportunity, you kind of been out of the scene, I guess, online, and I just haven't been paying attention to shit online because I need a life apparently. So I mean, whatever.
I don't know if I've been out of the online scene as much as just not caring about the online scene as much. I remember, and we've done that episode before, this like the drags and the forcing yourself to do social media for the sake of doing social media and just getting burnt out of it. I mean,
Yeah.
at one point I was doing 2 to 3 posts a day for like 3 years straight on Instagram,
Yeah.
Facebook, all those things. And like I was getting paid by Instagram to do it at one point through one of their programs that they were doing for new creators and stuff like that. I mean, it was fun. It was so much every day. And like, even like relationships I was having, people were like, why are you always on social media? Why are you always doing this? I'm like, well, that's kind of what's paying for this date right now. So
Yeah.
let's not be too critical of it.
Yeah, it is fascinating, like the era of the influencer. I mean, the fact that we're online doing this kind of shit anyways, it is we are part of that identified demographic of people who put shit out online. So
Very much so. And it's strange because like I'll get the urge to come back and then I'll do it for a couple days and I'll just go, man, this is tiring.
yeah,
Especially when you're doing it by yourself with no help from media companies or hiring anyone to do it for you or things of that nature.
Yeah, and that I think, I mean, it goes in phases because again, let's talk about Instagram. Instagram back in the day we're sharing food, not feet, food pics and photos of like we're out doing stuff. And now, like, you can tell there's people who are trying to be things, like we're kind of in that category. Then you got people who clearly are things. Then you got heavy marketing of stuff. And really, the algorithm there is really tailored toward people marketing things because the ad revenue. And it's pretty much killed, like, the small creator space. But I do understand, like, people like the authentic small creator space, because it's human, it's genuine, especially with this era of AI, because you don't really know what's real or not at this point.
The AI stuff is getting trippy, especially the AI ads that I keep seeing.
Oh yeah,
Like ads for companies that are now using AI images to help generate more revenue or more what's the word? I can't think of the
leads,
word.
follows.
Yeah, those things. Those. And it's like, wow, okay, this is getting creepy. I'm like, oh, maybe I should look into this AI stuff. And then I went, nope, I don't trust people, let alone computers. So I'm not
I
messing
just
around with that.
I just wonder with AI and FMA, AI and martial arts, because I mean you can do like the overlays and you can do like the cool filters, but the authenticity of movement, especially specific to an individual, because everybody's movement is technically their style because it's them and experience, etc., etc. But like I really wonder if AI can capture, because I mean it can capture voice, it can capture like tempo and diction and vocabulary, because like you see some of the AI generated stuff from like Joe Rogan and Trump, but I really wonder if it can do that for mocap.
I think that what I would like to see AI used for, at least in our community, is less of the creating of new things and more of just chronicling
Yeah.
the stuff that there is some dissension and debate about. And people can say, well, how can you trust the computer if all the sources are biased? Well, that's true. But it'd be good to have, because we are so spread out amongst, especially in FMA, there's how many islands in the Philippines? 7,000?
7,200 something on a good
Yeah.
day, depending upon the tide.
Yeah, depending on the tide. And if there's a drought, there's more islands. But there's so many islands, it's hard to keep everyone's information in track, especially because we're not the best at that. I don't care what anyone says. If we could trust a computer to do our schedule versus a human to do our schedule, one is better than the other because one is numbers and one is not.
Yeah.
The AI could be used as a means of documenting, chronicling all the stuff, which would be, in my opinion, the best use for it. Because then we could say, all right, well, this is what Chat GPT says Arnis is. This is what Chat GPT says Combatan or Calasisimo or all the other Filipinos arts, or this is the first official Filipino martial arts document was discovered by this time and this time. And if there's dissension about it, there could be, well, look, this is what everyone who brought their stuff together, this is what the AI is saying. Not saying it's factual, but at least it's giving us more of a like broader picture. And then we can start narrowing it down as to what's the real and what's the not.
Yeah, because like the issue that's running into is the cross section of sample inputs, because it's drawing from everything over the web, and just like everything on the web, everybody can put out whatever they want, how they want, because internet free speech, and so we're full of like some bullshit that's factually incorrect, misleading, and then trying to find the sprinkles of actual truth that's well documented, that's got accredited sources from that part is hard, because again, a lot of FMA is anecdotal, a lot of FMA is interpretations through misunderstanding of translations, and again, it's anecdotal patrilineals training methodologies, and the academic accredited approach to it as FMA historians, they're few and far between. I mean, there's some great ones out there like Elric Jundis, and who else is the other one? He's in the Philippines that does like all the cutting tests, but like those are some hardcore historians, but they're few and far between.
And I think that what's one of the best things I would say about the pandemic, and I'll throw Dean Franco a shout out. I mean, like FMA discussion was a brilliant start to really getting in touch with a lot of the FMAers who just don't have a voice, and at least giving them a place to, like my dad, who hates having any recognition, hates having his name out there. Like, Dad, there's this dude who's interviewed a lot of your peers, guys who you helped train. Why aren't you being interviewed by this person? And he would go, well, why do I need to be interviewed by them? So it's not a need, Dad, but you have this legacy, you have this history. You weren't just another student. You were a OG of Remy Presas. You were with him for literally like 2 decades.
Yeah.
Not everyone can say that in the capacity that he was. Why shouldn't you be sharing stories?
Right.
So that's, I talked to Dean, and Dean's like, absolutely, I want your dad on there, but I also want you, because then it gave me a chance to start building my platform.
Mhm.
FMA discussion was a great beginning place of starting that categorizing and chronicling, because Bobby Tabata was on there, Ray Dianaldo, those first two names that came to mind. There's a bunch of names that have been on that show.
The infamous 100 list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, good, bad, or indifferent, it was a good place to start this, getting this stuff actually written on paper, or in our case, videography.
Yeah.
Because I do think that, and who was I talking to just the other day about like the differences between Japanese jiu-jitsu and Brazilian jiu-jitsu? We can clearly see when things were changed because of the history behind it. It was documented, it was maintained. FMA, we don't really have that. I think it's because there's so much different and so much flavor in FMA, so many differences in flavors, that it's hard to pinpoint when certain things came about. Like the whole freaking, is Kali a real word? Is it Arnis the traditional word? Is Eskrima the traditional word? But then you have Eskrima spelled with a K, you have Eskrima spelled with a C, you have, Arnis with an accent over it versus Arnis without an accent over it. It's all this stuff. And it's like, guys, these are not the fights we need to be having. There are so many more important things in FMA for us to be arguing about besides, all right, what's the correct word? Who cares? I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, and again, chronicling and having this catalog of information to document is important. I mean, I've talked about this often, about you see FMA fighting it out online and growing online, because we are the age of putting stuff out there. Because like the only other category of martial arts, I'm going to leave combat sports out technically from this category, but like the people you see putting stuff out there the most besides FMA is, again, the jiu-jitsu community. I mean, that's combat sports community, but point being is, like, it's a martial art to turn combat sport, and has a lot of relevancy because it is utilized in combat sports, thanks to the UFC and now IBJJF and everything else. But FMA is also very prolific, that it could be a combat sport. Obviously, Wego Toto, Dog Brothers, but like as an accredited combat sport, we're still kind of lagging behind in that case, because it's a hard sell to get in the cage and beat the shit out of each other with a stick, even though we'll do it bare knuckle, but that's a whole other topic. But putting crap out on the internet, like FMA, and it may be just the algorithm for me, but there's so much FMA related knife content out on the internet. And the only other thing that like kind of like comes up with it is the BJJ community. Now, I mean, boxing, there's a lot of stuff, but like I said, like martial art, belt and gi type, I mean, it's FMA and BJJ that I see all the time. And like I said, I could be just biased based on the algorithm.
No, I'd agree with that. I'd say the top martial arts on social media is definitely BJJ. And I don't have the analytics right in front of me, but I would argue Muay Thai is probably up there too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because, the UFC, the two main things in the UFC for the past decade or so, it's starting to transition, but the main two arts in UFC at one point were BJJ and Muay Thai. If you were not in those two systems, you weren't as promoted, you weren't as this, you weren't as applauded, even though Lyoto Machida won as an old school karate fighter. Yep. Shout out that beautiful front kick he would get that people with. But, in boxing, I feel like boxing will always be the biggest striking art in America, just because I think it's got such a history behind it. Like, Americans, even if they don't know boxing, they've heard the name Muhammad Ali. They've heard the name Mike Tyson. They've heard the name Sugar Ray Leonard. They've heard, Marvin Hagler. They've heard George Foreman, may he rest in peace. Floyd Mayweather. They've heard names of that, even though they've Pacquiao, another great one. But they've never gotten the ring. They've never put on gloves. They've never done any of those things. They've heard those names. So I think that boxing, even if it's not put on social media as much, which it is to a good extent, it's always going to be the biggest martial art in America in some ways, at least on the public scene. I would then put, BJJ is probably second, but BJJ is definitely crushing it in the social media game because there's a lot more of them.
Yeah, and the other, I should re-clarify. I think actually performative martial arts, the two that you're going to see in demonstration, that's not necessarily going to be combative. I mean, it can be combative. The two that I see in my like algorithm is wushu, because wushu is great for the performance arts,
It's beautiful.
and FMA, because FMA, a lot of it is performative. And this becomes this issue about the argument or the discussion about flow drills versus fighting. And I mean that topic's been done to death. But as for like showing performative action, that's beautiful to just observe. Yeah, FMA for sure and wushu for sure. And if it just stays in those categories of showing cool shit and not fighting about it, even though it's a fighting art, yeah, that's it does great things.
I would definitely say FMA is the coolest art to watch. Like, there's so much that we can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I just posted a video on TikTok of me doing a stick through a boom, 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 transition, boom, knife throw, boom. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that looks really cool.
Yeah.
Is it combat applicable? That particular situation? Not at all.
Yeah.
Are there principles? Sure. But like GM Bobby Tabawada is one of my favorite examples of this. He has a move called the Hollywood Disarm.
Yep.
You've seen it.
Yep.
It is the most not super effective move in FMA. There's principles on it that are incredibly effective.
Yeah.
You know, distraction, mental, all those other things. But like the move in and of itself on paper is nothing productive when it comes to combat application.
No, but it
awesome. Looks freaking cool. He did it to me the first time ever a couple of years ago, and I was just, and again, I don't know Balintawak, but my whole goal is, all right, I'm just going to block and hit because I don't want to get hit, and I also don't want to hit him. So just boom, boom, boom. Oh, God. What? Oh, he slapped me. Okay, well, my stick's over there. Where'd that go? And now I'm on the ground. What the hell just happened? And he's sitting there going, do you see? You understand? I said, no, I don't, but do it again, please.
Well, it's funny because, like,
not fighting, but it looks cool as hell.
Yeah, it does. It's great for the observation. And again, this is the thing about critically analyzing what you see online, because and I mean, this is a weird little anecdote. It's the for those who can see, and for everybody else, they're ignorant to what they're looking at, and so they make generalizations, they make assumptions, and they look through the lens of obviously what they view and like and everything else, but they don't look through the lens of critically analyzing what is actually going on here. Even though they're doing silly things, even though they're doing stuff that's clearly acrobatic and entertainment, but looking at actually what the core principles are, what the concepts that they're exploring, and the tactics, that requires a higher level of thinking in martial arts. And the problem you run into is when we're inundated with arguments and not actually looking at good breakdowns or presentations where you can break down what's going on, that is twofold. One, it's the job of the presenter to communicate clearly what they're doing, even if they're doing it through satire, in the write-up or in the demo. Then it's also really up to the consumer, the person watching the thing, and actually seeing like, oh, they know their shit. And here's the list as to reasons why. Because, I mean, there's great examples of martial artists or movie stars that became martial artists out there that clearly it's like, oh, that's awful. It's, you know, when you know that it's inauthentic and it's awful. But then you see it like, oh, they got some skill behind them.
It's and we talked many times. You know, one of my biggest passions is professional wrestling.
Yes.
I'm one of those fans that, like, I know there are generations before me that, you know, it's like the Simpsons episode. Oh, it's like this. I can do that for professional wrestling.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I can literally equate almost anything to going back to that.
Yeah.
In professional wrestling, Ric Flair said this when this was in the early days. Someone was talking about, you know, what do you think about it being fake or whatever? Like, how do you handle the fans who said that? And he goes, the fans who get it, and the fans who don't never will. Yeah. And there's nothing you can do to convince them. He's like, the ones who understand it and get it, they will be with you forever. It's the ones who don't see it and refuse to open their mind that there's absolutely nothing you can do. I'm paraphrasing his quote, but it's the exact same thing with martial arts. And even two people who have, you know, even BJJ guys, when you watch BJJ people rolling around, if you're not an educated observer, you think it's just two infants rolling around. You think it's two toddlers having a spat. Like, it doesn't make sense. You don't really see oh, that guy's passing a guard to set up his whatever. That guy's passing that elbow to go to neon belt. All these things just don't make sense to the naked eye. And that's, again, going back to why martial arts as a whole is a minority. And then we divide it up even more into systems and styles and other parts, which is a whole other argument. But what was it saying? Like I think less than 2% of the entire population does martial arts. Even less than that's actually trained. Like you got your weekend warriors, you got your once a weekers, which there's nothing wrong with that. If that's all you can do, do it. Like, it's better to do something than do nothing. But then you have people like us. We've devoted a substantial amount of our life to this stuff. Like, this is not just a quote unquote hobby. This is
35 years. 35 years. So
like I had a girlfriend who was like, "Well, is that just like a hobby of hers?" I said, "No, this is a little bigger than that. I don't understand. How can kicking and punching be more than just a hobby?" I'm like, "Well, sit down. This is going to be what makes or breaks our relationship." Because either you'll get this or you won't. You won't understand why I'll come home on a weekend with bruises and cuts and stuff, and they'll think I was doing something promiscuous. No, I was just getting hit with a stick. I know one option sounds more believable, but
I mean, stick kicky, it's in the name. So,
my father was literally beating me up all weekend. Oh, you want me to believe that? I really don't have a better answer for you.
Dude, like my daughter, so totally bird trail. So my 13-year-old daughter does not want to do jujitsu, does not want to do wrestling, which is fair because you're touching sweaty people and you're strangling your brother. It's weird at first. And like you're being far more delicate about like the perception of jujitsu for the outside observer. But we'll move on from that. But point in case with my daughter, she loves to strike. I will run pads with her. She loves Muay Thai. She loves boxing. And then like the other aspect, the direct correlation as to culture, family, and tradition, like who we are. I put a rubber knife in her hand, as we do often. And she proceeded to stab the shit out of me, like trying to do tappy, trying to do sabayan. And there was one point like I missed and like she clicked me like right in the cheek. And it's like, I came home like, oh yeah, hey honey, look at this. This is what your daughter did. Like, what the hell? It's like, no, this is awesome. I almost died, but this is awesome.
Well, please tell me your wife high-fived her.
Yeah, well, she actually, the text is, "Are you helping our daughter be violent? If so, that's awesome." So
I would word, I'm not helping her be violent. I'm helping her deter other violent people.
Yeah. But and again, going back to this issue about the person in perspective, if they don't know what they're seeing, they don't understand the culture, they don't understand the purpose behind it and the why, because this has been an ongoing issue for a lot of martial arts. And in the case with me here, my little small town of 5,000 here at the end of the road, is like this perception of like what I'm doing as a martial artist, as a combat sports coach, is perpetuating violence. It's like, no, yeah, violence is the medium. It's part of the medium of what we're communicating all these things, but it is not rooted as to the worship of violence. Because again, of that demographic of the 2% and therefore less of martial artists and trained martial artists, the demographic of like violent people without training, that demographic is totally skewed in the other direction in favor. And so this becomes the problem of who are we actually presenting information to, and who are we trying to communicate and reach as to the positive aspect. And part of that conversation comes from the way we present it and the way that we interact with each other as people in the business, in the industry, people who are just in the community as leaders.
Can you hear that?
No.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Sorry, there's noise I'm hearing out there, but
okay. Jackie.
Hey, Jackie. Jackie's incredible, but we can go into this fun route of like you're talking about how we're presenting ourselves and how we're interacting with the community.
Yeah.
Let's just dig right into it. Like, there's been some stuff recently, and we're not going to name names. We might. I don't know. It depends on how
you
we're
know
feeling.
Who you are, and you know who they are.
And if you don't know who we're talking about, well, I'll just, message me afterwards. I'll tell you. Going back to wrestling, in the 80s and 90s, wrestling was slowly in this weird shift. And again, I wasn't alive in the 80s, and I was alive for the tail end of the 90s, born in 96. So I wasn't speaking from, I'm not trying to speak for something I wasn't there for, like some people have claimed that I do about other things in martial arts. But I don't care anymore. But I was, as a historian, I've watched this, there was this shift, and I've gone back and watched older stuff, and I saw this shift of, in the 80s, it was a carnival act, still kind of a niche thing. In the early 90s, it was kind of meh, still kind of a carnival act. The late 90s, mid to late 90s, it started getting cool to watch wrestling.
Yeah.
Like the scenes that I've seen of people wearing NWO shirts with Hulk Hogan and those guys, like, it started getting maybe not cool, but more acceptable.
Well, storytelling.
And you saw more storytelling with it. And then I started looking at, like, okay, well, what made this thing so big? One of my biggest questions I've always wanted to ask Vince McMahon, who, say what you will, he did this. I want to ask him how he turned a carnival act into a billion-dollar empire.
Yeah.
A global phenomena. You turned two guys beating each other up in a 20 by 20 sweaty carnival tent into this. And a lot of that can stem from controversy. A lot of that can stem from negative press along with positive press. Like, there's a time and a place for both. And as what's been going on, I'm seeing in the FMA community, and we've talked about it, is there a need for negative controversy or starting fights for the sake of starting fights without there actually being any merit behind it? Like, I don't know. Like, I'd like to think that we don't need that stuff, but we are a small pond. We're a very small minority of martial artists, and it's hard to get our names out there without some sort of controversy. Like, I'm sure in the early days, in those early MMA, and I don't know this for a fact, but like those news articles that would come out of, dude tried to rob someone, guy used BJJ to disarm him and take him down. Like, that's instantly going to bring publicity to BJJ. Regardless of the system or style, it's going to bring publicity to BJJ. Oh, this guy tried to rob a 30-year boxing Golden Gloves. Well, you just brought more publicity to boxing. So is this controversy that we're seeing on the FMA community as of late doing more harm than good for our community?
Well, the thing I look at is, again, back to wrestling, because I mean, when I ran a small promotion, a fight promotion here on the peninsula, like, we had professional wrestlers part of our fight promotion, and early on, it's like, these guys are annoying as fuck. Why do we have them on the card? And then, like, 3 years later, it's like, I love these dudes because they bring people to the venue. And they add some variety, they add some flair, and you have some diversity of presentation and cross-section of markets. And honestly, these guys are just fun to hang around. So aside from that, but again, what we run into, like, controversy sells is this issue of, you got to put butts in the seat. So you got to sell the game. So when we look at the big names and say in combat sports, so like, let's go with UFC, McGregor running his mouth sells tickets. He just does. He's great at the game. Muhammad Ali sold the game. He was a master shit talker. Okay, Mayweather is okay as a shit talker.
Mike
but
Tyson bit a guy's ear off.
Again, like, you see people selling the game. I mean, Jake Paul, as much as Jake Paul is Jake Paul, the dude is selling the game. He just
gotten good. I get the kid. Yeah, he's gotten. I mean, he could easily outbox me because he knows the game better than I do.
Yeah, but like, selling tickets, getting butts in seats by telling a story, having somebody that you want to watch somebody get their ass kicked because they presented a character that's obtuse and annoying, and you see the underdog is like, well, we're gonna defeat that. I mean, it's Rocky. It's all the stereotypes, it's the tropes, and it's a beautiful thing that we latch onto as consumers of media, people who want to be entertained. And just in the same category, some of the best martial artists, pound for pound and by demographic, like Demetrius Johnson, Mighty Mouse. Such a underappreciated martial artist when it comes to selling the game. But like, the dude is one of the most pleasant human beings you're going to find on the planet. Like, he has more fun. He can scrap, and he can play some Call of Duty, because like, his stream on Twitch is amazing.
He did a show with The Undertaker on his podcast just because he's like, hey, I want to jump on your show and talk. The Undertaker's like, sure, why not?
Yeah. But like him, like Sage Northcutt, Kung Lee back in the day, like, these people didn't sell the game to their detriment. But like, they are so underappreciated for like, they are phenomenal martial artists, but as an entertainer, it's left to be behind and left to be desired. And that's the thing that I run into with FMA, because we're such a small percentage of the population of actually being known in the wider populace of people knowing martial arts, because everything is karate, everything is MMA, but FMA is just like, what is FMA? What's the F part? And so with
Food.
that, yeah, food. The other part
It's the
you
most
run
important
into is,
part.
yeah. Tying up this diatribe I'm getting on is this the controversy selling. It's like, what are we actually selling? Are we selling the controversy, or are we trying to get people to come into the gym to learn our ethnic traditional martial art, our completely capable combat, military applicable fighting system, killing system? What are we actually doing with the controversy, and actually how's that presentation actually helping us rather than harming us? Because if you want to be presented and taken serious as a professional, I mean, there's humor, yes, but picking fights, I mean, how's that help?
I think a better question, those questions are great, but I think the first question we need to ask ourselves is, when we're doing this, are we doing the controversy to promote FMA, or are we doing the controversy to promote just myself in FMA?
Yeah.
Like, again, I harken back to wrestling. I really can. Hulk Hogan, when he joined WCW, had complete creative control when he signed his contract with Ted Turner.
Mm-hmm.
He had no stake in the company. He wasn't an owner in the company. He had no say in how the company was running it as a business in WCW, but he had complete creative control on how he was portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
And another promoter was on the show, or talking about this, and saying, when you have a talent who has no ownership in the company but has complete creative control, therein lies a conflict of interest. Are they doing what's best for themselves and their bottom line, or are they doing what's best for the company's bottom line?
Yeah.
And that's, I'll put Remy's name in this category. Remy was, I think, one of the things that made him so well known. Professor Remy Presos, the creator and founder of Modern Arnis. And again, I wasn't there, never trained with him, never said I did, for people who think that I say these things. He was so captivating, and he was a little controversial.
Oh, yeah.
And I think a lot of those OGs were at that point, because they knew that's what got their name out there. And especially in Professor Remy's case, to my knowledge, there were not many people who were teaching outside of FMA circles at that time in the early 70s, mid 70s. Like, a lot of the FMA guys stayed in their own little area.
Yeah.
Remy didn't care. He taught everybody. He was one of the first ones that I know of that was teaching the karate people, the kung fu people, the outsiders, because he knew that's where the money was going to come from.
Yeah.
He knew having, 5 students of FMA was awesome. Having 40 karate participants was exuberant amounts of money back then. And that was controversial. People would say, well, it's the old kung fu adage of, Bruce Lee was killed because he taught kung fu to Westerners. I don't agree with that.
Attack.
But yeah,
I'm not saying it is, but it's more likely he had a heart attack. So.
Brandon Lee was killed because they were ending the curse led all the way down to the Lee bloodline. And I was like, or it was just, an accident, and it was a prop gun that should have been a prop gun that wasn't a prop gun. That's what happened. Right? He got shot on scene for something. And it's like,
you actually see him get shot in the scene in the movie, because they kept it in the cut.
Oh, I didn't know. I haven't seen the movie. I have not watched The Crow. It was The Crow, right? No, it was.
Yes.
Okay. Look, I was born in 96. I'm sorry.
It's on Netflix. It's on Amazon Prime. No excuse, my friend.
No excuses. So by the next time we do the show, I'll have to have watched The Crow. Okay.
Yes. Not the remake, because there's only one Crow. There's only one. But anyways.
There's like 2 or 3 remakes after that one. Look, I'm sorry. I just never saw it. And my family has ties to Bruce Lee in some small, minute ways, but we do. Not
so when I talk to your dad,
ties,
we'll have a...
I'll give you his number, and you can rip him a new one as to why I never saw The Crow.
No,
he'll go, who is this?
Anyways.
But, going back to the controversy of things, and, I think there is a time and a place for controversy. I think it helps in small doses. I don't think it's beneficial for us to start fights for the sake of starting fights amongst our own community, because that's just stupid, and it makes us look more divided than we really are. I mean, one of my most viewed videos on social media has over 2 million views, and it was me just doing a quick knife deployment, a little John Wick, a little cosplaying, if you will. And, you could say it's controversy. That's that's when good controversy happens, when it's organic and it wasn't intended and it just sparked something.
Yeah.
I never captioned that or shared that in a way that was me trying to be Johnny Badass. People just took a video and ran with it. I didn't need to do anything for it to get promoted. I don't even the hashtags weren't anything like spectacular. And I wasn't doing the payment program on Instagram to help me get promoted even more. It was just a real quick shot timer, boom. Like less than 5 seconds of a video. And it got 2 million views because people were just going off on their own. They were adding to it more than I ever did. And that's what that's the natural organic controversy that you like. Because like I can say, look, I didn't start anything. I posted a video. You guys went with it where you went with it. It's when people are going out of their way to comment on other people's stuff and to start fights for the sole reason of, hey, I'm going to start a fight.
Yeah.
And I just go, why? What is so, what are you lacking in this existence that you feel like that's the only thing you can do at this point in time? Like, I just don't see it.
Yeah, I don't either, because it's, what was it, like, doing reaction videos? I mean, we enjoy, like, the reaction videos of, like, seeing the workplace, like, OSHA violations and people of Walmart, people of Florida. I mean, like, we like those, but, like, just the reaction.
Half those videos are all from Florida.
I know.
My home.
But just to do a reaction video yeah, doing a reaction video just to
that's
ride
the 2 million one. That's not the 2 million one's on Arnis International, but that was years ago. So, but this was still like that one right there. People on the one on Arnis International were commenting all sorts of things, saying it was fake, saying it was nonsense, saying it was too violent, saying it was this, saying it was that, and I would just comment the emoji smiley face.
How is it too violent? You're pulling something out of your pants.
I mean, that could be considered violent.
I mean, you're pulling something out of your pants, but point being, choosing my words specifically here, you're just pulling something out of your pants.
My favorite comment on the original video was, that's BS, it wouldn't work, you're going to kill someone. And I went, so either it's too dangerous or it's not dangerous enough. It can't be both.
So you need to register your hands, my friend. Or register whatever's in your pants, my friend. So,
I mean, this is not the FMA after. This is not the FMA after dark conversations.
Like I said, today was going to be a little bit less enlightened, and we're just talking shit. So
yeah, because who cares? What are they going to do to us?
It's Friday.
You literally named the title of this video "MAGA: Make Arnis Great Again."
Yes, I did. I'm in one of those moods today, and it's like, fuck it, we're just doing shit today. So
that's what we're doing. All right. Well, then in that case, I'm ready. No, I got to drive. But
yeah, I don't know. It's just I being one of those social media people that uses humor to communicate whatever the fuck I'm doing, because one, it's authentically me. Because the rubber chicken, if you want to look back to my videos even from 10 years ago, like the rubber chicken's always been there. So if you want to look at videos from like high school, there's always been a rubber chicken or a toilet plunger, but that's a whole other thing. But point being is this side of my humor is authentic, and also I use as a medium to explain stuff, because our community can take itself way too fucking serious and showing like the super presentation of the 10 million death stabs of this really big fucking knife, and or I don't know, like this shanky looking thing or just whatever. It's just like you can still present information without the super scary shit, like the tool that's clearly a scary algorithmic tagging thing. So, because like actually one of the best videos I've seen of an FMA presentation of Sabayan or Tappy Tappy was a pair of Filipino kids back in the islands with water bottles.
Yes.
And their technique was on point. And when you look at it, it's like, oh, and if you know what you're seeing, yes, go for it. But for like some of the comments I've seen, there's like, that would never work in the street. Well, clearly it's a fucking water bottle, but you're not seeing what you're seeing there.
It's the disguise of, like you were saying, like how do we impart information while still being, what did she say?
We're not having fun.
Exactly, Jackie. I mean, another video, this is going to sound, I can't help but say this without sounding arrogant. Like one of my other most viewed videos, like by 1.5 million, is my dad doing a modern Arnis thing and incorporating a Stone Cold Stunner.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
that's not that video. That video is fucking awesome.
It's incredible, and it's just like it's jokey, it's hokey, it's fun. Before that video was started, he was teaching a whole session.
Yeah.
And he was imparting a concept. He was doing tappy tappy. He was doing modern Arnis. He was doing this. He was doing that. Francis Serrano, one of his most viewed videos, I'm pretty sure, is his whatever he was doing that led into the Hadouken. Boom! Like,
yeah,
it's hilarious.
Yeah.
You know. Let me see. Oh gosh. Boom. And then my overselling like a mook.
Oh, so like in one of my other videos where I asked, so for one, I tagged Aikido because Cooper clearly did an Aikido small pass, and it worked in that moment. Now, people say like that was choreographed. I mean, yeah, it kind of was, because we're going through the flow, and there was a part of like, we do this transition all the time, and most of the time I stop him from doing that because I don't want to take the fall. But like when I made the point of saying, so Aikido works in FMA, ? That thing just like people lost their fucking minds for good reasons, and also typical of the internet. But
prognostication,
yes, but still, like, I mean, making a little tag that leads to a question mark, sure, because that creates a conversation. It creates an opportunity to have a discussion, even if there's a little discourse, versus everybody's jumping into the comments trying to show like their support for their favorite online presenter. Because like I really wonder,
so
like,
much of that.
Because I really wonder, like, how many people actually go forth and try to like legitimately defend Master Ken? Because Master Ken, clearly, him as a human being, because I've talked to him offline several times,
he's a great
dude. He's a great dude. He's a legit martial artist. He just straight up is. Okay, but Master Ken is the character. Like, it's the point of the character. You can see the skill beneath the character, and it works. But like the people who like argue that he's a bullshit martial artist, when like half of his videos state that this is bullshit, like he's in on the joke. It's like Shatner. Shatner's in on the joke at this point, and that's the point.
You say sabotage, and I say sabotage.
Yeah, exactly. With the extra Shatner comments, but but point being is like, for those, and I really wonder, and going back to AI, I really wonder how much of that is just the auto-generated like bots out there that just do the shit anyways, versus like, again, the AI conspiracy here going on, because it's Friday, of like people who pay for this controversy to have all these bots jump in, because I don't know if it's a thing. It probably is, but if not, now it's a thing. But I really wonder if the people who jump in the comments section, if they actually are real human beings, versus like it's something that just is auto-generated.
I wouldn't have any guess on that number, because AI is still such a scary metric.
Yeah, and just in the same of that is, again, the people who are viewing this stuff, how much of this is them just immediately responding out of emotion, and rather than like sitting there and actually thinking like, huh, that's interesting, or huh, I disagree with that, but I'm going to put in there a constructed question, perhaps an argument or a point to consider, and just create a discussion that can have some discourse, because we need to have disagreements, because that's how we work our way through shit. Because this issue of like confirmation bias, and therefore we get siloed and we just only want to hear what we want to hear, versus like, I disagree with you. Okay, why? Here's reasons why. Oh, that's interesting. Or we can find a middle ground and like consider both options. And I think people have definitely lost that ability to have a discussion, disagreements, and work their way through and still be friends in the end. So, or still actually have a an understanding where each person stands without actually selling the controversy.
I think that's it's a lost art, like you're saying. Like,
yeah.
What does Jackie say? My best guess is nothing. Is mostly real people, because these comments were super common for. Yeah, that was a thing. Yeah, I trust her. She's been doing the internet martial arts game long before a lot of us. I mean, she had the blogs and stuff going for years.
Yeah.
But like a great example of people like this, how society should be in general, is like one of my closest friends. Like, I'm a devout believer in Jesus. He's a hardcore atheist. He does one FMA system. I do my FMA system. Are there things that they do that I think are complete nonsense? Sure. Are there things that I do that he thinks are complete nonsense? Probably. We still hang out like all the time.
Yeah.
Like we're different in political views. We're different in religious. All these things we're different on. And I can't wait for the blog to return, Jackie. And like all these differences, we're still like best friends. Like
Yeah.
we used to go to their house every Tuesday and we'd watch Dune. Like, and that's
As one should. As one should.
And this dude's a hardcore Dune fan, like way more. I didn't even know what Dune really was. And he was like, we watched when the movies came out with Timothy Chalamet, we all watched them as a group, and he was explaining things as they happened. Oh, what is that?
I have the 10-year, I have the 50th year. Yeah, I have quite a minute. Yes. Sorry.
I didn't realize how much Dune had impacted a lot of the modern day media until hanging out with these people. Just because, like, oh, wow, George Lucas really stole everything from Dune. Not stole,
Robert Jordan. I mean, the only, like, realistically, the people who predate in the genre of sci-fi is Isaac Asimov. So
I don't even know who that is, but I'm sure all these sci-fi fans out there are getting super excited because you said
so you've heard the law of robotics, correct? Like, a robot shall do no harm to human, should not be ordered to do any harm to human. Think of the movie I, Robot with Will Smith. That's based upon Isaac Asimov's books.
Oh, okay.
The other one is it it's the Foundation? No. Great show. It's on Peacock. I'll send you the title. That one's a great show. Great book series. But point being is, yeah, Dune, progenitor of modern sci-fi, period. But anyways,
I'm more of a Lord of the Rings fan. Sorry,
that's fair.
J.R.R. Tolkien's like my favorite author next to Jesus in the Bible, but J.R.R. Tolkien's incredible.
Again, foundation of Western fantasy literature, even though before that it's Beowulf and all the Icelandic sagas and mythology. But when it comes to modern Western culture, yeah, Tolkien sets the tone for the past nearly 100 years. Anyways, Bird Trail because it's Friday. So
back to FMA nonsense and
back to FMA and disagreeing with
I
people
think
in
that
FMA.
PTK should beat no. Modern Arnis or bust. I don't care. Do whatever you want, people. Do whatever system makes you happy. Just be aware of the people out there who are snakes in the grass.
Yes, that is a great book, Jackie. Yes, it is.
No idea what that is, but I'll be sure to look it up.
Great book.
I'm going to get a message from Jackie later. You haven't read this and you haven't seen The Crow? But
do it.
I will.
But yeah, so having discourse between you can still be friends, still have disagreements, because here's actually the way I look at it, because the title today is MAGA, because it's a Tagalog accent today. Is this issue about, again, diversity?
We're gonna get canceled.
Yes, we are, but I don't care. It's Friday and I've had not enough coffee. But point being, it's like diversity. Having a homogenous society is a boring society. Having this overall society that everybody is the same, you lack the opportunity for uniqueness, diversity of thought, value, presentation. You lose the opportunity for artistic expression. You lose the opportunity for non-linear thought. You lose the opportunity for the potential of what if, versus like this hive mind singular viewpoint of what's acceptable through society. And that is a very boring and stagnant society. Again, doing quote, stagnation is definitely to total obliteration, and occasionally you need to throw rocks in the pond. And so this is where controversy can be helpful, to throw rocks in the pond, to create discourse, discussion, and to rack us from our apathy, and to create some growth, even though it's tumultuous, because occasionally we throw a big fucking boulder in the pond. But point being is, having a homogenous society, having a community that is only a single source of belief of this FMA presentation is the only way, you lose out on the opportunity of like exploration, creativity, and rediscovery, and you just become a slave to dogma, doctrine, and curriculum, and you become a clone of the person who came before you, and you lack that opportunity to grow as an individual, and thereby extension FMA growing as a system and of its own cultural art. So But that requires two people thinking
Yes.
and doing different things. So, oh well. Or
What's the old expression? Flavor and variety is the spice of life.
Yes. Because not everything has got to taste like salt. Not everything has got to taste like vinegar.
That's what I think that, from all the stories my dad and, GM Brian and Tuan Ray and a lot of the, Bram and GM Bram, GM Jet, all these guys that I've gotten to meet who knew Remy in a very personal level would tell me all these things about, no, Remy called it ice cream. Everyone has their own flavor of ice cream. And on top of that, everyone has their own toppings to the ice cream. So whatever that's why, one of my dad's biggest beliefs and what I instill and I teach, with my stuff is that we have the modern Arnis umbrella. We can add to it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's your own personal journey, you can take stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
A la Bruce Lee, a la Remy Presas, a la my father. The old expression, people say the pure modern Arnis. I don't believe there is such a thing on paper. There is an essence. When you get the essence of modern Arnis, you understand the pure modern Arnis is whatever you do, is whatever you do. And I steal the line from Ip Chun, Ip Man's son in the movie Ip Man, The Legend is Born. It was played by Dennis Tao, was playing Ip Man as a younger man, and he ran into this, he went to college, and he met this medicine guy, played by Ip Chun, who was explaining, he challenged him to a Wing Chun sparring match, and Dennis Tao's Ip Man was only doing it a set way that he learned in his school, whereas Ip Chun's character was doing it the way he learned it from the guy who created it in a different, delineation of the branch. And he goes, wait. He hit him with a certain move or whatever. And Dennis Tao goes, wait a minute, that's not Wing Chun. And Ip Chun just goes, anything that comes from my fist is Wing Chun.
Yeah.
And I just went, that's it. That's what I've been trying to put on words as to what anything I do is modern Arnis. Even if I've added Balintawak, added FCS, added PTK, added Sarada, added whatever, the umbrella core of who I am is my modern Arnis. Yep. Bobby Tabuada said it best. The first seminar I ever got to learn from him, we were in South Florida, hosted by June Baja, FQI South Florida, and Bobby's standing there looking as, talking with everybody saying, you do Muay Thai, put it in your Balintawak. You do wrestling, put it in your Balintawak. He looked over at my dad and me, who we just met him, and he goes, you do modern Arnis, put it in your Balintawak.
Mm-hmm.
We just reversed that. We put our Balintawak in our modern Arnis. But that's, and Bobby loves that I do that. When he let me, when I was there in Ohio a year ago, or Cincinnati a year ago, and we're watching all this stuff, and he asked me to go up there and demonstrate. And I was like, me? Teach? Yeah. He goes, yes, you teach. And I was like, what do you want to do, sir? He goes, teach some modernities, teach your locks, teach stuff your dad does with you. I was like, oh, okay. He goes, but do it and have fun with it. I said, all right. I did our stuff from a Balintawak standpoint, and then I incorporated it all back into the modern Arnis. Yeah. Having the ability to go, all right, I'm seeing it all, I'll make it my own. Yeah. The art within your art is a statement that's caused certain individuals controversy in the modern Arnis community. That's because they take it too literally, it sounds like. Yeah. Dad would tell me all the time, Chris, take whatever you learn from these guys. Because I asked him before I could learn from Ray and learn from Brian and learn from Chad and learn from Bobby. He says, Chris, I don't care if you go learn from them. Learn from them as much as you can and make it your own.
Yeah.
That's a good instructor telling me, go learn and then share it with me. I want to see it.
Yeah. And so like the thing that I run into, because you see, I mean, the title of a lot of my videos is it FMA? Now, the answer is it's FMA because I'm doing it. Because I'm Filipino, I'm doing martial arts. So there's that like broad stroke. But my favorite comments is that's not FMA. It's like, really? What defines FMA? Is it like the FMA that you've been exposed to? Is the FMA like you think it is? And that part is
FMA.
Yeah. And that part isn't like a uniformed definition, because I don't think it can be. Other than that, like, if you look at the very baseline of the features typical of FMA, stick, knife, double stick, knife and stick, bolo. But those are typical features. But every other culture in the world, because concurrent development in societies had all these as well. Now, the flavor and the approach based upon the technology, time period, and
Geography, all
environmental
those other things.
yeah,
Yeah.
all those things are unique to it. But like every culture had a bow and arrow. Every culture had a knife, whether it was steel or obsidian, but every culture had some form of sharp, pointy thing,
And
and
every
some
culture
form
had
of
these.
exactly. So every culture came to the same conclusion of how to kill each other and how to create a systemized approach to kill each other, depending upon all those conditions. But they still had the baseline technology and the human platform to operate this from. Now, again, back to FMA. What defines FMA is, well, if we talk about where it came originally from, and those features particular to it, such as FMA, the F stands for Filipino, thus the origin. But on top of all that, you have the features typical that you see of it. Again, stick, knife, dagger, and stick, etc., etc. But that's such a broad topic of what can be, because again, the diversity of the islands and therefore the diaspora of the Filipino community is like you're looking at 7,000 plus islands, plus the thousands of years of history, plus all the cross-cultural connections of seafaring people. So there's a lot of influence in there. There's a lot of things that's begged, borrowed, and stolen and interpreted. But again, you're looking at features. Now, if you're looking at specific cultural features of different styles per se, say whether it's modern Arnis, Pakiti Tercia, Balintawak, like there are specific features of Balintawak you're going to see. There's a certain crispness that you're going to see, especially with G and Bobby's. Like you can tell that this is one of G and Bobby's guys or gals because there's that certain snap and crispness. There's that dynamic hit. You can tell if somebody's a Pakiti Tercia person because you're going to see some flowing features. You're going to see the double daga. You're going to see Sabay, and you're going to see these featers.
Define a Modernese guy. I want to hear it.
The thing that I look at for Modern Arnis with my
terrible kid. No.
The thing that I look at Modern Arnis as like my presentation and my exploration and again my own training of it by way of what I grew up with and also by Guro, Belt and Lubis.
You have great access to Modern Arnis in your lineage.
I do, and the features that I see with that is the single sticks in a wally and double sticks in a wally. It's the stick work that is particular to my understanding, expression, exploration of Modern Arnis. So there's that. Now, like others, like say Calici Illustrissimo, you're going to see distinctive movements in there, such as the hanging step. There's small circle. So, like again, if you're looking in the specificity of all those features of those styles as the baseline, with the wider foundation of what FMA, as in where it's coming from, and their features, then you can start building a basis of critically analyzing and saying that, okay, this is FMA, and this is where it's a divergent tree. Again, the ugat, the roots of the tree, and the different branches leading out.
I think that, what's interesting, and I got this one from, what is it?
Yeah, pointy stick. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. It was used for fishing, walking, fighting, all those things. Yeah. I got this from Guru Dan Lohman, who's, in my opinion, one of the greatest martial artists out there, not just in skill, but also historian-wise. He knows, like, when I have a historical question about martial arts, especially in the Filipino realm, I message him first. I'm like, hey, Guru Dan, question, I read this. Can you help me find the validity to it? And he'll go, well, that came from this region at this time. So-and-so did this. It was his uncle's art. He knows all that stuff because he also goes to the Philippines all the time.
Historian.
Work.
Historian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's incredible at it. And remember we were at a seminar and he's watching people move and he's like, yeah, that guy's a Serrata guy right there. I was like, really?
Yeah, that's another one. Clear.
How do you know? And he goes, I'm looking at his footwork. And I was like, okay, well, what's that guy over there? Oh, that guy. That's Modern Arnis. Oh, that guy over there, he's this. And I went, you don't do all these arts, but Uncle Rob, he doesn't do all these arts, but he's done enough of them to spot the footwork. And also in his way, he knows a lot of the arts have their footwork based on their region of origin. Like certain arts moved a certain way because of the terrain they were walking on. That's why they had to move that certain way.
Yep.
Modern Arnis were a finicky bunch because so much of it was shifted towards its new purpose when it was in America. Like modern Arnis is one of the arts that I've seen when I first started working with people, and they say things, oh yeah, like I didn't know you were modern Arnis. The other modern Arnis guy we did was more Largo, and I went, well, that's interesting because my dad never did modern Arnis Largo. Someone even told me, oh yeah, modern Arnis, that's more of a Largo art, isn't it? And I go, not the way I do it, because my
Yeah,
dad can't finger lock you or headbutt you at Largo.
because
But
he's
then you
only
do
this
have
tall.
exactly. So it's like modern Arnis especially is in that weird hodgepodge of everyone getting a lot of different things from Professor because he wrote nothing down. I don't
Hmm.
care what anyone says. I have it on good authority from multiple sources. Remy didn't write anything. All of his students wrote the stuff. And what they would say things, well, it depends on, what the old man was thinking at that time. What did the old man want to practice in the 80s versus the 90s versus, whatever. Some
Hmm.
people didn't get any, like some people never learned modern Arnis left-handed at one point. That was the first thing my dad was taught was modern Arnis left hand.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing he taught me. I was able to do left-handed modern Arnis way better than I could do right-handed modern Arnis. I didn't learn much stick. At one point, I only knew the empty hand.
Hmm.
So his higher-ups were testing me once, and my stick knowledge was abysmal. But then my empty hand portion, I was pushing them across the room.
Yeah.
Because there is that weird, I know we're getting off topic, but I think that's part of the reason why we have so much controversy, especially in modern Arnis communities, of people thinking they know better because their own reasons. When it's like, no, you don't know better or worse, you just know. Good, bad, or indifferent, you have your knowledge, and that's fine. But don't
Hmm.
disparage other people for having a different knowledge that you disagree with without any real claim other than, well, Professor told me this in 1994. Well, Professor told me this also in 1994. So who's correct? Who's right?
We're different people with different people, and the way to like really have a core understanding and a template that everybody's on the same page is a dedicated curriculum that's codified, written by the progenitor. Problem being is you have different versions that are published based upon different times of their life, but this is where you have a category or catalog of here's curriculum 1.0, 2.0, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I have 3 modern Arnis curriculums in my office upstairs.
Yep.
From different authors, from different people that I found them and I kept them, and I was like, ooh, this is from George Mazak. Ooh, this is from so-and-so. This is from so-and-so. And I looked at my dad and I said, Dad, which one do you know? He goes, I don't know any of those. I learned a different way.
Well, it's
That's
just the
why.
same. So like G and Bobby has a dedicated curriculum that is from level 0 to FQI.
Yes.
Then
He has the most organized
after.
system of them all, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So like that is a great example of what is, and here's the standard, meet it and move forward. I mean, Dulce Paris has got a good one for that. Also, Dr. Kelly Warden, he's got a dedicated curriculum of like, this is the stuff that is the core of NSI. Then you add your flavor on top of all that.
Mm-hmm.
So that part is important. But again, interpretation, make it your own, make it work for you. But having that foundation of like the same language that we all can speak. So before you can have art, before you can have poetry, before you can have lyrical expression, you have to have a language that is standardized and understood. Now, difference though, and we'll talk about a universal language. So using dance, for example, dance is a universal language of expression of emotion, joy, pain, anger, all these things. But when you see it, you have the universal understood of movement. You can see, and if somebody is in tune with empathy, because we know like somebody's in pain because they can express it and you can identify with it. So you know what is when you see it because that core language and foundation is there. And that's important in both, again, in art. You have to have that core understanding of what it is, and then before you can express it. And this is the case of like Filipino martial arts and the different variations of make it your own art within your art. The core language is the human vehicle and the curriculum that's attached to it. But you have the interpretation of like the individual, they themselves have different features, preferences, and capabilities. But again, understanding like what you're seeing, having the eyes to see, and knowing how to look at it critically and make those connections. Again, that's up to the individual to figure that out.
I know you're going to have hopefully you're going to have GM Brian here at some point in the near future.
Yep.
And he can talk about it way more because it was his brainchild, in my opinion. The legacy camp and the evolution document of modern Arnis is his way and a lot of the other OG's way of trying to fine tune that modern Arnis curriculum and like creating a unified building block, which is great though, because it also, from I've talked to him, I've talked to my dad, and they all say the same thing. Like, look, we're not telling anyone they have to follow this.
Yeah.
But they can if they want to. It's our way of helping out the next generation.
Yeah.
Because you're right, having a curriculum would have made things a lot easier.
Yeah.
But I also understand, the essence from what I've gathered of FMA is it's the free flowedness. It's the, hey, I saw this. Can we work this? Absolutely. Or, hey, I'm one of that was super helpful for a second gens coming from lineages without written curricula. Yeah, and we've talked about that at length. Jackie, Michael, Craig, and I, and Christian, and some of the other people who are coming up after these OGs is like, well, you learned it this way. You learned it this way. Like at the Legacy Camp, one of my favorite moments in martial arts in general is at the last Legacy Camp. If you guys don't know, the Legacy Camp is the biggest modern Ace camp in America with the most original Remy black belts and the best people, in my opinion. There's some that we're still trying to get into it, but there was like 13 original modern Ace black belts. And someone asked a question about some technique. And for the next 5 minutes, they were all arguing and figuring things out of, wait a minute, you learned it this way? Well, that's not fair because I learned it this way. And, we didn't learn that at all over in our side of town. Well, we didn't know that existed over there. And at one point, Shinchi Janet Alps, who's an incredible person, goes, it's fair to say we all learned them all differently.
Dude, that would have been an awesome moment to catch on video because it's the proof of what actually occurs in the community without actually having a core unified document and video documentation. This is where we are in a beautiful point of our existence as martial artists and a society, good or ill. We have video documentation of saying, hey, here's what he said, and he can keep going back to it so long as the medium exists.
I have a video of that all happening, but I just don't post that one because I go, that's for my personal laughter.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
It's FMA, in my opinion, is the most fun art out there. And I've dabbled in a lot of them. Like I've dabbled in grappling arts, I've dabbled in striking arts, I'm ranked in several other ones. It's just FMA for me is the most fun with the most people that I enjoy being around. Can't be nailed down that way in modern East. Yeah, it's also true.
Yeah.
But FMA to me is the most fun, but it also has some of the most dissension. And it's not necessary for the arts to continue. Like these naysayers, these negative influences, these people who are so high up with their titles and their blah, who are solely out there not to promote the arts, in my opinion. They're there to promote themselves in the arts, which is a distinction. It's one thing to promote the art. It's another thing to promote yourself in the art.
Yeah.
There's that fine line. Like people could say every time I post a video on social media of me doing modern East, oh, you're just promoting yourself. You could say that. And there's an argument to be had.
And it's partially correct. So
it's partially correct. It's when you got people that say things like ours is the only legit one. Ours is the only legit curriculum. Ours is the only this. Ours is the only that. Ours is the best because of this. And I go, well, now you're no longer promoting the art. You're promoting yourself in the art.
Yes.
And that's a problem.
There's a great video that Paulo had with Nick Coop about this discussion about legacy and empire. For people out there, look it up.
I don't think I saw it. So what's the summary?
The basis of it is legacy and empire. Legacy is about building the next generation of saying, here's my influence that put on you, both my knowledge, my experience, my mentorship, run with it thereafter and give creditation. Versus empire, it's tyrannical and saying that you will follow everything that I have to say. And again, it's cult of personality versus a mentor. It's the basic genesis of that video.
And that's a great point. I never thought of it legacy versus empire, but like I know in particular there's dudes out there who are solely trying to build an empire.
Yep.
And I know there's great people. Bobby is just trying to build a legacy.
Yeah.
GM Bobby is just trying to build a legacy. He's a little contradictory sometimes when he says, I am nobody's grandmaster, but then he also says things like, I must be grandmaster because I have students who are masters, so I must be grandmaster. I said, well, wait a minute, GM.
Yep.
He goes, shut up, let's go sing karaoke. You got it, sir. We'll go party.
Dude, oh man.
Sharing knowledge versus gatekeeping knowledge. That's another one. Or they're gatekeeping knowledge in the sense of, I'll only tell you if you sign up. I'll only tell you if you submit to my will. And like, you must now think I'm the best of the best. Like my dad was at a seminar and he's told me this story 15 billion times, but it's still a great one. It was my precursor before I started becoming an instructor to realize what I never wanted to be. I was at a seminar, and this dude asked a question, GM so-and-so, not saying names, GM so-and-so, how would you do this if you did this technique here or whatever? And the guy looks at him in the middle of teaching this. There's people around him. He goes, you clearly haven't bought book 3 of mine. Go buy book 3 and then you'll get your answer.
Yeah.
And I was just like, Dad, no way that actually happened. He goes, Chris, I was there. I watched it happen. This isn't a story from hearsay. I was sitting in the room when the dude asked that.
Yeah.
And I went, no. I know who I never want to be like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's been more examples of that.
And again, like what is the purpose as to what you're doing with your FMA to benefit FMA? Now, of course, if you're a professional martial arts and this is how you put bread on the table and feed your family,
whole different dynamic.
Gotcha. 100% because been there, done that.
You got to do what you got to do to keep the lights on.
Exactly. Period. For the other one too, pay your instructors. Again, pay your instructors. Pay them on time. Pay your instructors. But point being is like, again, the impetus to do the thing to promote both yourself and the arts, because if this is what you do for a living, 100% got you. Now, if you're doing it by way of controversy, yeah, that gets butts in the, yeah, it promotes it out for marketing, but does it actually get people into the gym and stay in the gym?
I think you're right, and I think I might have misspoken. There's nothing wrong with promoting yourself in the art. There's nothing wrong with that when it's done correctly. It's the whole 7 DVD 32. There's nothing wrong with, me promoting modern Arnis, me promoting my dad, and also putting myself in there as well when it's appropriate. It's when I'm saying things, and I'll just use an example. I'll make up an example of myself. If I said, all right, I'm teaching modern Arnis and, my way, I do this technique here and it's the best one in all of modern Arnis. All right, now I'm no longer promoting the art, I'm promoting myself more.
Yeah, yeah.
Versus if I say, I'm doing this technique I figured out and putting it into the modern Arnis because it blends so well with what we're doing. Okay, that's a little better. It's when you have those guys who are, I'll just be harkening back to the statements that I heard a dude say. Ours is the only legit curriculum because it was the last one signed off by professor. Okay.
So you invalidate everything came before?
Or does it invalidate everything after? Does that mean my black belt in modern Arnis isn't legit because I didn't learn it from that curriculum?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'm telling you now, I'm never going to learn your curriculum. I have a copy of it. I'm never going to read it for that reason. I looked at it and I went, wow, this is obscure. But promoting the arts is our job as FMA practitioners. This is about Kevin and me, more about a community we're building for those that need to be more.
Because they have a book. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. That's a fair point, Jackie. I still don't think you need to promote yourself. Well, you do, but there's a way to do it. There's the process in which it needs to be done. Like, this may sound weird. I've been teaching seminars for a little while now. I've never booked myself. I've been booked.
Yeah.
And I know, and I'm not disparaging those who do book themselves. Yeah. I understand there's a reason for it. There's a time for it. There's a place for it. Sometimes you just got to do it to get yourself going. That's great. I'm not disparaging anyone who's done that. I just know how I was taught the seminar world. I don't go out and book myself. People ask me to do them. People pay me to do them. People book me to do them. And both are good.
Yeah.
But it's how you're doing it that's the issue for people who promote themselves and book themselves and or people who get asked to do seminars. Did you start first by saying, oh, well, you could always have me out there for a seminar. I could help get you guys better. Well, okay. Now you're just kind of being, you got booked by someone else, but you did it in a really shiesty way.
Yeah. Or, again, I'm going to go back to Master Ken because Master Ken is a master marketer for martial arts, period,
as a whole,
and for himself overall. Because what he does is, he's being booked, but he's also showcasing by collaborating, doing it in a comical way, but he's showcasing the social media and therefore the school and the instructor staff of, hey, I'm going to make fun of you for a little bit, but I'm in your school doing this stuff and showcasing your people. That's genius marketing.
Master Ken is just...
He's a genius. He just
absolutely. I think, let's see, seminars are partly a cult of personality. Professor is a great example, in my opinion. I'll be careful, Jack. You sound like you were there learning under him, and people will get pissy because you say a certain thing a certain way. I'm still bitter about that comment. I mean, that made me angry. We talked about that privately for a while. I was mad at that whole situation.
Yeah, we did.
And you were just sitting there going, "Ooh, Chris has got some heat now."
But again, there's a difference between having a discourse and a discussion and disagreeing versus flat out going at an ad hominem, attacking a person personally. Yeah. Oh well.
And there are some cases where attacking a person personally, I'm not completely against. I look at McDojo, who calls out blatant pedophiles, blatant horrible people. Yes, attack them personally. I want them to be ousted on every single platform because they should be.
Yep.
That's okay. Like if there was an FMA guy who did that in our community and we knew about it and we didn't tell people, I think we'd be doing a disservice.
Yeah.
In some ways. And there's ways to do it, obviously. It's how do you say these things without putting your own opinion on things and just make it the facts only. That's people get too emotional in their statements sometimes and they put their own spin on things. Like, no, just, learning how to write witness statements and whatnot. It's the whole, no, you don't put anything you don't know. You just put the fact of the statement on there. Mm-hmm. You put an opinion on there. You put your own spin on things. You've now thrown out that entire document.
Yep.
Because how do you know?
Yep.
Oh, this person came at me aggressively. How do you know it was aggressive? You don't know that. Did he have his fist raised? Did he do this? Did he do that? You have no idea. Now you're trying to be an investigator when you're not.
Mm-hmm.
So, but where are we going with this? I have no idea where we're going with this now.
Ad hominem attacks and having.
I need more coffee.
That's okay. So do I. I don't know.
We could talk about this forever, but
yeah.
And we have talked about this part where there is a small minority of vocal people who are putting us all in a bad light.
Yeah, there is.
The rest of us, we don't care about starting controversy. We don't.
Well, I mean, part of it is because, like, for some of us, actually, a lot of us, those who are actually doing the work, are too busy being busy. So,
and there's nothing wrong with that. Like,
I
don't believe FMA or martial arts at all. Even for you, ones like Jackie and Kevin are great examples of this because they own a dojo. They work and created one of the greatest dojos in America, in my opinion, especially because they're strictly an FMA dojo. Mm-hmm. There are not many of them. Theirs is one of the best. But I know Jackie and Kevin would also tell you their family is more important than their dojo. Yeah, there are things that are more important than just that. Not saying it's a huge disparity or disparaging that, but I know Jackie and Kevin, they're great people who care so much about so many things, FMA being a huge part of what they care about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I know Jackie cares more about great barbecue than she does about FMA, even though she didn't take us anywhere good. I'm kidding. You took us to great places. I want to get a lot of messages from Jackie. There are more important things in martial arts. Yeah. And I think I hearken back to, one of the Kung Fu adages I heard, like, if you should not do Kung Fu if you can't make your ends meet, mm-hmm. if you can't take care of your family, if you don't have control of your own life. Like, you should not be doing Kung Fu in this example. You should not be doing Kung Fu if you don't have those three things in order, because you're never going to get the Kung Fu in order if you don't have the rest of those things. Same thing in FMA. If you can't make your living, if you can't fix your own family's issues, if you can't do this or that, you really shouldn't be training. You should be focusing on that stuff. Try to focus on fixing what's important and then come back when you're able and ready. Now, if you need this as an outlet or some sort of like a stress reliever, that's fine. Like, go run, go to the gym, go work out, go hit a bag. That's, that was my therapy for years, was hitting the bag with a stick. Still is in some days.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, a little slight, it's not a caveat, but like a sly bird trail to that is, if you're a professional athlete and you're in a profession of arms, your impetus and your why is so different versus like creating a core of community, family, etc. Like, you actually have to use this stuff, not just to teach, to put bread on the table. Like, you have to use this stuff because you're actually using this stuff. So like the reasons, So there's a reason why that has a higher, I hate to say higher priority, but the fact is they have a higher priority of practice, usage, and implementation versus like I'm teaching a kids class, I'm sharing the legacy and culture of my particular martial arts versus, again, procedural and professional. Because
I agree with that.
I mean, you can get culture and community within the combat sports community, because obviously you do. You can get some culture and community through the profession of arms, utilizing combative skills for professional violence. But that's so tailored to that community. But as for the majority of martial artists out there, specifically martial artists, this is a hobby. Even if they're doing it professionally as like running a school, this is still something that they're doing to teach people, but they're not necessarily utilizing it as its form and its core of combative, effective use of violence, unless, again, professional athletes are profession of arms.
I said this a little while ago, and some people were a little bit miffed about it when I made the statement. Like, I don't think there's any combative FMA in America anymore in its original sense, because it can't be, because the original sense of it was we're cutting people's heads off. We're killing people. Like, now we're showing them other ways of doing it in a safer way, which is totally acceptable, and it's fine. It's fun. It builds longevity. It's, if you kill all of your students, there's no more students. But when I had a guy in front of me who was staying there in the chieftain stance saying, we're teaching the true killing art of the Philippines, I go, you work at Kohl's. No, you're not.
And which part of the Philippines at what point?
Exactly. Like, no, you're not. You're not teaching the true killing art of the Philippines, because they'd be dead.
That's such a broad and bold statement.
Exactly. Oh, dude, it was such a terrible seminar that I went to. It was the same place that said we're going to skip food, and I went, nope, I'm leaving. This is still the biggest amount of heresy I've ever come across in Filipino martial arts, and that's saying a lot. But every Filipino group I've ever been a part of has always said, yeah, we're going to go eat. What about the training? We'll come back to that.
Or go surfing.
But we got hot lumpia right on the counter. Why would we not eat that first?
You need to have fuel.
That adobo has been cooking and marinating for hours. It'd be a sin to not eat it. So, exactly. Oh, I haven't told you that story, Jackie. I need to tell you that one at some point. Long story short, I went to a Filipino seminar. Filipino. I air quote it because they didn't have food.
But they have a great online presence.
I'm not saying names. Went there, did the training. It was all right. Went to lunch. They said, all right, guys, we're going to go to this restaurant. All right, cool. I'll meet you guys there. Hey, guys, this food's going to take too long, so we're going to skip the food and go back to training. And I just went, you said skip the food?
Mm-hmm.
That's even a thing? I don't understand. Like this, I don't like. I felt like SpongeBob opening the dictionary. Like, these words don't go together. How are you doing this?
Yeah.
How do these words make sense in the sentence you're forming? It was just absurd to me. But you're a white Midwesterner who has access to phenomenal food, so it's okay, Jackie. Because that was one thing when we went out there with my dad, and I still haven't been to the new dojo yet. I know he's going to be there in a few weeks. I will not be able to make it, sadly. But the first thing we did when we got off the plane, Jackie's like, all right, we're going to go get some good barbecue. And I was like, ooh, okay, I'm into this. We literally had our bags still on our bags when they picked us up at the airport. It's like, hey, we're going to go get barbecue. I go, done. I'm happy to be here now.
Let's go.
When I went to FCS Kentucky, the first thing I did when we got off the plane was, hey, we're going to go to our pizza place that we go to every year. I'm like, awesome.
I mean, it's a telltale sign.
Great.
It's the telltale sign of the influence of Filipino culture. I mean, this is culture in general, but like for the sake of this conversation, is the love statement of "Have you eaten yet?"
Or you're not a lot.
Or you're not leaving my home, my dojo, my
until I fed
activity. Exactly. So yeah.
I made sure when I hosted my dad and Ray down in Orlando, I was like, all right, I'm going to find good restaurants. And not only that, I found a good place for dinner. I found the best ice cream in the city of Orlando. I found it, and I was like, all right, we're going there after dinner. And they were like, ooh, ice cream.
Yeah.
Ray, I don't know if it's a Filipino thing, but Ray loves ice cream.
It's funny because we're lactose intolerant. At least the majority of us are. So
Ray might be. I don't know. But I can count more times that we've gone out and had ice cream than we've actually trained.
We have definitely bird trailed. I mean, circling back, do we have anything that we really want to discuss? I know you were kind of short on time. You have actually no. You got stuff you got to that not that you got to that you want to. what stuff do you got coming up, and what stuff does your dad got coming up?
Well, this weekend, I'm actually, once we're done with this podcast, I'm driving over to Tampa for my dad's seminar tomorrow, in Clearwater, Florida. He does it every year with Grandmaster David Hogan. And then he's got.
You got a flyer? You won't find it. It's
I
on
can
your
find
Facebook
it.
page.
I think it's somewhere, but I know Jackie has. Remind me, Jackie, if you're listening, your seminar is in April, right? With I don't know when it is, but a big seminar up in Kansas City, which I wish I could go to. I just started a new job, Jackie, so I don't know if I can or not. But a great example of what we've been talking about, of just collaborative of the arts. A modern Arnis original grandmaster, a Kombatan original grandmaster, and then you have someone who's kind of both. GM Shelly Millspa, who was one of the best Filipino martial artists I've ever met and had the blessing to touch hands with. My father, I can't sing his praises enough. I can also sing his insults, but his praises enough. And then GM Mark Lynn, who is terrifying, literally terrifying. All three of them are going to be at Jackie's school in, I believe, a month. If not April, it's in May. I don't remember which one, Jackie, forgive me. The other ones I want to pimp out, and I know GM Brian will as well. The Legacy Camp will be in September. September. Huge event. I cannot make it a big enough. Yeah, Praises Family Fusion. That's the name of Jackie's event. The Legacy Camp, I can't sing its praises enough, because you get to touch hands with so many different people, all in the pursuit of learning and sharing and growing. Jackie's event, April 25th, 27th. But in the Legacy event, I've seen so many grandmasters come in there, not big dogging anyone, not overshadowing, not trying to top dog, none of that. Just there to learn together as a group of people in the love and pursuit of sharing modern Arnis as they learned it. And that's how it should be. I've gone to other events where there was a dude, who was asked to show something. He showed his thing. He came up to me and said, yeah, you see how those other guys couldn't do it that way? They can only do it this way. I was able to do it outside of that. And I just went, okay, why are you telling me this? I don't care. Like, that's grand of you to say that. I don't care at all.
Self-serving versus serving of the community.
And he was invited. He wasn't even invited. He showed up and was asked to show something. Like, it's not even whatever. Another one I want to pimp out, Michael Craig, Guro Michael Craig of Indiana, doing his big seminar in 2026. This is a big one because it's a big one. You got Super Dan Anderson, Grandmaster Brian Zielinski. That one, oh yeah, that was a seminar flyer. I forgot a bunch of those. This one I have not added to that flyer yet, because I just got the information a little bit ago. But in 2026, GM Brian, GM Dan, Master Roland Rivera, who am I forgetting? My father and Grandmaster Bobby Tabuada will all be under the same roof, sharing, teaching, having fun, eating food. That'll be a fun time. I can't think of whatever else. I may be somewhere in May. I might be teaching in May in North Carolina. I got to figure that out. I was asked to do a seminar there. But again, see, I was asked and I did it the right way. I'm friends with this person. He likes what I do. And he's like, hey, why don't you come up and teach something? And I was like, oh, I'm starting a new job. I got to find out if I can. I'd rather go to North Carolina and see all my friends, but I kind of
you need to come out to the Pacific Northwest and come to Water and Steel with me. August 15th, by the way.
You have no idea how much I'm trying to do that with everything that's going on right now.
Make it happen.
I want to. Trust me. Datu Kelly is one of the people that I still need to meet, because I have a book for him to sign.
And you have a nut shot that is warranted, because if you know, you know.
Datu Kelly is such a great person. Like, I haven't talked a lot with him, but every time we've had a conversation via phone or via messaging, always been nice and delightful and insightful to share any things he's gotten over the years with me. And it's the way, and we can definitely, this will probably be the ending part of this conversation, but it'd be a good way to end it if we were. everyone out there who will watch this and listen to this, you need to find someone that you can follow that is a good person.
Mhm.
Not a good martial artist. That's secondary. Find a good person first. Like there are so many masters and grandmasters. There's a few Datus, not many of them. This is Remy didn't make a whole lot of them.
Mhm.
Few Tuhans, few Guros, few whatever. Find the ones that are going to make you better, but also treat you right.
Yep.
You know, I shout out my instructors all the time. You know, Guru Ben Zaharias of FCS, Guru Eric McGee Sarada, you know, and all the ones in the modernist community. I can't name them all. I have so many instructors of mine that I treat like they treat me well. GM Bobby is someone who, while I'm not an official student under him, I know that I can go with him with questions. I can talk to him about stuff, and he'll message me things, and like we're friends. But I also look at him as a person, not just the great technician that he is.
Mhm.
So, and when I went to my first world camp, he was so inviting and treated me well. I was like, yeah, him. I gotta learn more from him because
Yep.
it's so easy to be blinded by skill and not see the crappy person underneath.
Yeah.
And there's a few of those out there. Some in the vocal minority of FMA even that are like that, where they think their stuff don't stink. They think they can crap rainbows and it smells like flowers.
I mean, the fact is humans are messy and most humans are a train wreck, and trying to find, and this is the risk that we run into, is following a cult of personality, both in the positive sense and in the negative sense. Because again, every leader has a point of charisma. Now, again, back to Dune, be wary of the charismatic leader. That's actually the true story behind and true lesson behind Dune. But point being is, you have good charismatic leaders, and then you have everybody else. So, and we run that risk of being members of a cult, whether martial arts or part of a grand, other things. But again, understanding where your boundaries are, understanding who the human it is that you're following, and not giving up too much of your will to them. Again, we give our will to whom that we will and what, whom and what we will. I'm butchering the other quote here, but point being is we forego a certain level of agency, and problem being is some of us forego all that agency because of they want to belong. They want to be a full disciple. They want to be a sycophant, because of they want to be attached by association or awesome by association. Versus like, hey, I like this person. They're nice to me. They have something that is procedural, contractual, not contracting a disease, but something that is they have something that I like, and they're a person that I enjoy enough to actually go get it from, and not like giving of entirety of our self to that and being blind to the truth of who we are and giving too much away, so to speak. And that, and again, charismatic leaders, like we can follow whomever what we want, but how much are we going to give away? And how much are we going to give away of our own agency for the sake of being attached to them and their legacy or their empire?
I agree.
Yeah. So I don't know. We didn't talk a lot of shit today, did we? I mean, we always kind of. I mean, we tend to, or we intend
I got like
to
15 more minutes. You want to start going down the really dark rabbit holes? Let's do it.
Well, actually, like this is what happens with us, and I could be wrong from my side for speaking on your behalf, but I think what happens to us when we intend to talk shit, we go back to the core thing of what is the point of being online if you're not presenting information that is inspiring, educational, or entertaining. Because I mean, if you're not being kind, then what the fuck are you doing?
And there's a time and a place when we need to, like we said already, to put our foot down on certain things. And full disclosure for all the audience, we did another episode that we're probably not going to release because it just, I know I was very emotional in some of the things I was saying, which I remember messaging you about, like, I don't know about that stuff. Maybe it's a little, maybe it's too far down, you know. And that, that also comes with growing up and realizing there are certain things that, yeah, I said that out of emotion and heat of the moment. I
Mhm.
probably shouldn't have said some of the things that I said in that video. Now people go, ooh, what did Chris say about so and so? It doesn't matter because it I am all for the talking about, the educational stuff and also just being informative and just sharing our love for the arts, which is what we do. And you also know me, I love talking crap about people when the need arises. And I
Yeah.
think we did that to a small extent in this video because there is stuff going around right now that I look at and I go, guys, this is a joke. You people are starting this fight for the sole reason of starting this fight. First off, the arguments on both sides are, in my opinion, are just stupid. Can you catch a stick at speed? Well, if you know you can, you probably can. If you know you can't, you probably can't.
But the
Who
big
cares?
question is, why are you trying to catch a stick at speed?
Why does it matter? Yeah, exactly. Like it's so many people were messaging me saying, have you seen this fight with so and so and so and so? I said, yeah, did you read the comments? Stop worrying about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that big of a deal. Sorry to burst the bubble, everybody. It's public knowledge. It's in the comment section still. So,
and again, this is where I'm going back to, like, stepping away from stuff is like I'm busy doing stuff, and it's actually where I like to be because it takes less cognitive emotional energy because I'm too physically beat up to really give a shit. Because again, I've dove back into my old life, not teaching per se, but I am participating in a lot of stuff now these days. And yeah, it's busy and I like it, but it keeps me on track of not dealing with said bullshit online. And I think that is the
it takes more
majority of
brain
us.
power to deal with negative stuff.
Right. I'm too busy suffering being in the category of the big jitsu um, lineage because the majority of my gym, shout out to Whole Fast, grappling with Professor Jordan Contra. But like, there's a core of us that are the big jitsu, and I am the small one of the four of us. But point being is, when you're suffering, that's or suffering for the sake of suffering and enjoyment for skill. I mean, I'm too busy doing that to really give a shit what's going on in the FMA community. And honestly, yeah, I've talked at length. I'm just, it's not going to give, it's not worthy. I'm going to give point as to my annoyance right now. So
I make myself suffer enough by drinking whiskey straight. So I don't need to deal with commenters.
yeah.
I do that. I do the whiskey for the pain. I don't need to deal with commenters to endorse my pain. And I think that there's just so much, like, picking my words carefully. There's so much toxicity still in our community. And the crappy part is our community is so small that the toxicity is just so obvious.
Yeah.
And I think toxicity is an overused word, especially in this generation. I'm the son of a therapist. I've heard all these buzzwords my entire life, and I've seen them change.
Mhm.
At one point, it was this word. Now it's this word. Now there is so much that you just look at it and you go, what's the freaking point of this? Like, you're doing this solely because you want to build your name up. And I mean, I get it. If you run a martial arts school, like one of the persons in my mind does, and this is your livelihood, you got to do what you got to do. I worked for a legitimate karate school for years, and my instructor did a lot of things that he thought was best to keep the lights on. I get it. On the outside looking, I don't get the pressure of it because I didn't have that pressure, but I understand looking at it. I go, okay, I see why you're compromising. I see why you're sacrificing. I see why you're doing these things. But then it comes to are you doing this now to keep the lights on? Or are you doing this because you truly hope and think that'll make people respect you more? Or are you doing this because you feel left out of certain things? Are you doing this because you think it makes you seem cool? Are you doing this because it makes you think you're the big dog in a really stupid pond? And not letting your skill do the talking, you decide to talk over your skill, making you sound bigger than you really are, which, I've met enough of these FMA masters and chief instructors and other nonsense titles who think their stuff don't stink. And I just look at them all and I go, look, just let your skills do the work, man. Like, if you're good, I'll know you're good. I don't need to hear how good you are. One of the best compliments I ever got, ever, in my martial arts journey, the first time I ever got to work with Tuhan Ray and I uked for him for a seminar, the moment we clapped sticks, Not 10 minutes after, the moment we did, he goes, "Oh, good energy."
Mhm.
And he didn't even know that much about me. And that's when I started learning, oh yeah, FMA, we can really tell who the skilled ones are. And in my case, the good ones. I wasn't skilled. I was just okay, but just good
Yeah.
enough for him to say it. We can spot, I think FMA is a great, there's a very easy level that we can tell if someone's good or not. Like
Yeah.
you don't need to say a whole lot. I can tell from your movements if it's effective or if it's ineffective, because I think with FMA, when you're playing with a knife, there really is no room for error. It's very apparent if you got cut or you didn't get cut.
Oh,
If we're
yeah.
playing with sticks, it's very clear to see if you got hit or you didn't get hit. So I believe in FMA, if we just stop talking and let the skills show, like if you watch in a lot of my videos, I don't say what I'm doing, I just show it.
Yeah. I'm leaning
And
back to doing that again. So,
then there's pros and cons. Sometimes there's teaching moments that I, put on YouTube or something like that. But I don't need to hear how good you are. Just show me. My dad, people for years thought he was grandmaster, officially ranked grandmaster in the belts and whatever. My dad was a third-degree black belt in modern Arnis for 20 plus years.
yeah.
You ask anyone who knew him, they would all go, "Really? He's only a third? He moves." People who just met my father go, "Oh, Grandmaster Chiu, Grandmaster Chiu." He goes, "Please, it's just Bruce." He goes, "No, you're Grandmaster, right?" Knowing my father, he only had a third dan from Remy. A
Mhm.
third dan is impressive, but it's not Grandmaster level. But he was able to move at a level that exceeded Grandmaster level just off his skill alone. He didn't correct anybody.
Yeah.
He didn't tell anyone because he didn't, obviously him in rank, Chinese Kung Fu, he didn't care about ranks. To him, the belt was just used to hold your pants up in Kung Fu. But you look at those guys, he didn't need to speak. His skill showed for itself.
Mhm.
Anytime you see a video of my dad talking, usually it's because I filmed him or it's a rip from one of his DVDs that he was told to make. He
Yeah.
did not like being the center.
No, and actually that's why I find the most organic teaching, because it's free flow in the moment, and you actually get to see the genius and the expert performer and presenter, to use a phrase from Jeff Johnsgard, in those raw moments of their just talking off the cuff whilst doing a thing, versus the cleared presentation that's prepared where you're speaking at, versus like I'm talking whilst in the moment. And that is actually where I find the most genuine and better forms of education presentation, is when you catch them talking about stuff while doing the thing versus talking at you about the thing.
And there is a time for, like, I filmed my dad teaching at seminars, and that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was when I was filming him that he didn't really know I was filming him, after the seminar by the poolside with the other people, just doing that separate teaching sessions, that I go, no, 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 no. These are the real
That's what
jewels.
I'm
These are
saying.
the real, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Versus those guys who are like, those people who think that I'm going to tell you how good I am. You're going to have to believe it or you're wrong. Instead of going, well, why don't you just show me?
Yeah.
Okay, you can show me. Why do you need to say anything with it?
Yeah.
Or why do you need to disparage other people, say other people are blatantly wrong, or do this is better than that, and here's why? Well, you're doing it because you're just trying to build your name, and that's whatever. And maybe I'm too naive in my belief that we shouldn't have to do that to build ourselves up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I you move further. It might take you longer to climb the ladder, but you get up higher if you bring people with you.
Oh, agreed. Agreed.
You can step on people and get up there pretty fast,
Yeah.
but you won't get as high.
Yeah, we're all walking the path. I much rather walk the path that's been walked before and with my homies along the way,
And the
versus
good
like walking
instructors
on
will
them.
bring you with them
Yeah.
until you eventually surpass them, which is the goal of teaching. And this is something that I had to learn because my first instructor did not want me to surpass him. My dad said, the goal of instructing is to have you one day surpass me.
Yeah.
I want my students to be better than me. That's what my dad said. And it's what I say to my students. I want them all to be better than me, because that means I've given you the building blocks. You go build the rest.
Dude, actually, my favorite thing, and I need to do this more consciously, as to saying when I'm presenting stuff with Cooper, really the focus is like, watch Cooper, not me, because I'm just doing stuff at him, but he's the one actually doing the work to react or to be proactively active against me. And so, and the progress that he's made in 10 years, because Cooper's been with me since he was 16, is this thing of like, watch the student. And really, I'm just the guy that's giving him feeds and inputs, but he's actually doing the work. And I'm enjoying this more as an instructor, as a training partner, of seeing like, here's the progress of what my guy is doing. Watch him, not me. And I think, and this is my own bias because I just talked about it, but I think that's actually what most instructors want. Like, again, legacy versus empire. They want to see by the good works of their students. They just happen to be that vehicle of transferring information to them to present them like, here's the your right, your privilege, your opportunity, your permission to go do the thing and not be a slave to my curriculum and my interpretation. Put in your own work, make it your own, art within your art.
I truly believe in us doing that, we will make our niece great again.
Yes, let's put that back up there.
We need to make that shirt.
Oh, it's happening, dude. I already have I will send you the print promo that I have with my printer. So
I will pay for 4 of them because I know I got people who want them.
Oh man.
I look at FMA and I look at what's happening to it, and I love that it's getting more exposure. I just look at who our main brand ambassadors are. Some of them are phenomenal examples of human beings and martial artists.
Mm-hmm.
Some are decent human beings outside of martial arts,
mm-hmm.
and some are not great in either.
Yeah. I mean, again, humans are messy. People are messy creatures. We'll just try not to add to the mess, and also make sure that if we are a mess, fix it. And try not to let that spill over to others. So, I mean, it's actually part and parcel why. Yeah.
I've been corrected many a time by my father. When I was getting a little too big for my britches, he had to call me out. And that's good. I needed that because I remember very vividly, I was getting to train with all these fantastic people like Ray, Chad, Bram, like all these guys who are grandmasters, and I'm getting to work with them one-on-one. I was getting a little bit of an air about myself. Not trying to, it happened because I'm like, oh, I know this now. And my dad was like, Chris, it's great that you know it, but how you're coming about this or how you're coming off as someone who was better than. And I went, oh, I never meant to. He goes, no, I know you didn't. That's why I'm telling you.
I mean,
now you need to learn.
You have mentors and you have peer support mentors, because the fact is your friends, not sycophants, not yes men, but your true friends, your brothers, your sisters, whomever that is really going to hold you to the standard, is going to say like, hey, you're not adhering to the standard of our social contract and our social norms of this community. What the fuck, homie? But we're going to help you come back to the line. And it's not an issue of suppression and tyranny. It's a point of like, this is who we're supposed to be. This is who we are. This is who we agreed upon as a positive sense. And like, you're deviating outside that line. Let's rein you back in to make sure you're not going to create a problem for yourself that we can help you with. Again, we want to be around good people, because if we're around good people, we by extension can be good people. Not saying that we are good people by that. It's just good people tend to surround themselves with good people. Toxic people find toxic people. Toxic people tend to prey upon good people. But the fact is, we want to be around people that are going to uplift us, inspire us, educate us, and hold us accountable. Because again, discipline is love. Discipline is freedom. So, yeah.
My dad was talking to one of his old friends. He passed away, but another head of an organization said, man, someone told him, he was telling my dad, man, we really don't have any assholes in our organization, do we? My dad looked at him and said, no, because you're not an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
The ones who are kick themselves out.
Yeah, self-selecting. Yep.
And then you look at, I always wonder, you look at those organizations who are run by those certain individuals who are just like, oh, that guy's a scumbag.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the rest of the organization, not saying they're all this way. It's just a higher probability that there's probably some more scumbags in the group.
Yeah.
It all starts at the top. What you allow or what you perpetuate is what you allow most likely. Yep. Like GM Bobby is one of the greatest people on the planet. I haven't met all of his top guys. Met a good number of them. They're all stellar people.
Oh, yeah.
I've met other heads of organizations where I think they're less than stellar people. And it goes, oh, yeah, that's why that guy was like that.
Yeah, exactly. So, Again, this is again leadership principle. Leaders' intent sets the tone of the organization and the community. They set policy and implement it, but it's also up to the subordinates to also help implement policy. But again, your people will follow you, so don't suppress them. Lead by good example, and don't be an asshole about it. So, oh well.
It's always fun shooting the shit with your brother.
Yeah, you got to head out, have fun hanging out with your dad, and hopefully you'll catch another moment of another awesome WCW movement.
Hopefully not. It's on a marble floor.
I mean,
I'm getting older, man. These bumps are getting harder to take. I know I'm not as old as you guys, and everyone reminds me, Chris, you're still young. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not as young as I once was.
it still hurts. Pain is still pain.
Still hurts. The floor is still the floor. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah. You're not going to win against the floor.
When my dad hits me with a chair, he's still hitting me with a chair.
It's true. It's true. Just catch it on video because the shit's hilarious and awesome. So, yes, Jackie says take photos.
You've already got the best photo of me getting hurt for your marketing, Jackie.
It's for prosperity. It's for legacy, archiving.
I've got 10,000 items in my martial arts folder alone. I'm fine.
Jackie says she needs more. But anyways, I know you got to get out of here. Well, yeah, it's always great hanging out with you, my friend. Obviously, we'll do this again. Actually, if we do this we tend to do this on a Friday. It's kind of hit and miss whenever we do it. But yeah, I hate to say like part 1, part 2. It's just this is a regular thing at this point. So like when I put this out there to Spotify and the universe, it's like, well, Chris is back on. Just deal with it. Here we go.
We're friends. Like we talk about stuff, and I'm the guy that like, you couldn't get like a real guest? Call me.
Sure. You said it, not me.
I will. Granted, though, when I start this new job, we won't be able to go this late in the future. That's might start a little early on a Friday.
That's fine, man. Well, safe travels. Tell your dad and everybody else to say hi and give my fond rubber chicken salutes. So,
always, brother.
All right, homie. Well, I'm going to drop you out. I'll see you later.
Later, everyone.
All righty. Well, folks, that was almost under 2 hours. You're almost there. Yeah, at random conversation with my homie Chris, as it's enjoyable as it always. So anyways, no long outro. This is going to get cut up, do all the things for marketing. And yeah, again, make Arnis great again.